Tariffs are back in the headlines, and this time, they're bigger than ever. In early 2025, former President Donald Trump, during his second term, announced sweeping new tariffs aimed at reshaping America's trade relationships. Supporters hail them as a necessary move to protect U.S. jobs. Critics warn they could trigger inflation, damage global supply chains, and invite costly retaliation. The centerpiece of Trump's 2025 plan is a proposed 10% tariff on all imported goods, alongside even higher tariffs targeting countries like China. This is not just talk. By April, the first phase was already in effect. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, the administration's goal is to revive American manufacturing and reduce dependency on foreign nations. Supporters argue that decades of globalization have hollowed out U.S. industries, sending millions of jobs overseas. They point to sectors like steel, automotive, and electronics, where cheaper imports have long outcompeted American-made products. Tariffs, they argue, can level the playing field, giving domestic companies breathing room to invest, hire, and innovate. These tariffs could restore America's industrial heartland, and that a strong manufacturing base is critical to national security. In some areas, early signs seem encouraging. A March 2025 report from the National Association of Manufacturers shows that U.S. factory job openings rose by 7% after the tariff announcement. Several companies, including Ford and U.S. Steel, announced new domestic investments, citing the changing trade environment. But the picture isn't entirely rosy. Many economists warn that broad tariffs function like a tax on consumers. When import prices rise, so do prices on store shelves. The Peterson Institute for International Economics estimates that the 10% blanket tariff could cost the average American household about $1,700 more per year. Retail groups, including the National Retail Federation, have already reported rising prices on everything from electronics to clothing. There's also the issue of retaliation. China, the European Union, and Mexico have all hinted at or imposed their own tariffs targeting American goods, particularly agricultural exports. Farm groups are concerned. The American Farm Bureau warned in April that U.S. soybean and pork producers could lose critical market share in key overseas markets. On Wall Street, markets have been volatile, with sectors reliant on global supply chains, like technology and automotive, seeing the sharpest declines. The S&P 500 fell 4% in the days following Trump's initial announcement, though it has since partly recovered. Long-term impacts are even harder to predict. Some experts believe that if the tariffs remain in place, companies may adapt by shifting supply chains to countries less affected by U.S. trade barriers, like Vietnam, India, or Mexico, rather than fully reshoring manufacturing to America. Meanwhile, inflation remains a top concern. While February's inflation data showed a modest slowdown, analysts from Goldman Sachs warn that the tariffs could reverse that trend later in the year, especially if supply chain disruptions mount. In the political arena, the debate is just as fierce. Supporters argue this is about restoring America's self-reliance and protecting strategic industries. Critics argue it's a form of economic nationalism that could isolate the U.S. and slow overall growth. Ultimately, the future of Trump's 2025 tariffs will depend on a complex mix of economic forces, political decisions, and international reactions. Are we witnessing the rebirth of American manufacturing, or a risky gamble that could backfire? What do you think? Are tariffs a necessary defense, or an economic mistake? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more balanced coverage from the full picture.